As it becomes more and more obvious that underwater kicking is a critical skill for swimming fast, there's more and more interest in finding better and better solutions to improve this skill. However, to actually improve the underwater kick, all the work doesn't necessarily need to be done under the surface of the water. In fact, in many cases, it can actually be beneficial to work the kick on the surface. Let's find out why. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. I was recently asked about the value of surface dolphin kicking in order to prove underwater kicking. And that's the topic that we're going to cover in this video. As we'll see, even though it's not underwater kicking, it can be an effective strategy for helping swimmers improve their underwaters. Improving any skill requires practice, a lot of practice. And that is no less true for underwater kicking. But underwater kicking presents several unique challenges that make it difficult to get a lot of good, effective practice. The most obvious reason is that swimmers can't breathe underwater, and so therefore all of the repetition distances are necessarily going to be relatively short. And so in order to get a lot of practice, you have to do a lot of repetitions, and you have to give swimmers sufficient rest between repetitions in order to get them enough oxygen so that they can actually do the exercises in a safe and effective manner. Not only is safety a concern, but if swimmers are so focused on their lack of oxygen, they're not going to be focused on improving their skills. And as a result, there's never going to be extended sequences of kicking because swimmers have to take breaks pretty often in order to get oxygen. For all those reasons, it's difficult to get a large number of repetitions and a lot of volume that's necessary to improve the skill. And that's particularly problematic because the nature of the skill requires swimmers to use their entire body in a coordinated fashion in order to create speed. Between range of motion, high forces, the timing of the forces, the timing of the different body segments, there's a lot to manage and a lot to learn. And just as importantly, effective kicking requires a decent amount of fitness. There needs to be a lot of strength in the torso and in the legs. There also has to be a lot of endurance in the torso and the legs in order to execute high-level skills repeatedly. And so swimmers have to create pretty big outputs over time, sustain those outputs, and execute them repeatedly at a really high level. And this is particularly relevant for underwater kicking because in many cases, swimmers have underdeveloped muscles on the back of their legs, which makes it difficult to have a symmetrical and effective kick. So how do you get the practice in that's necessary to help swimmers improve? The first step is obviously to do a lot of underwater kicking. You can do it fast and you can do it in isolation with either drills or short sprints. You could also do a lot of underwater kicking during swimming sets themselves. For instance, you can have them take 6 kicks off of every wall or whatever number is going to be appropriate for your swimmers at a given time. That is a great starting point, and it's going to take swimmers a long way. And for some, it may be sufficient. If they're practicing doing short, fast underwaters, and if they're doing a really good job with their underwaters while executing their swim sets, that might get the job done. But for others, they need more practice. And to get more volume, you might have to take it to the surface. By dolphin kicking on the surface, it gives swimmers more practice coordinating the rhythm of the kick. They figure out how to create speed in a more sustainable, rhythmic way because they're going to be doing the kick for longer periods of time. They're not limited by the amount of oxygen they have. They can kick continuously for much longer periods. And in order to do that, they almost always have to find a more rhythmic way to execute the undulation to have an effective kick. And over time, if they can establish a better rhythm, that's going to lead to better underwater kicking as well. The more effective swimmers can be at using rhythm to generate their speed underwater, the faster they're going to go and the more sustainable it's going to be. So that last wall can be as good as the first wall. Secondly, by kicking on the back on the surface, we can develop the muscles on the back of the body that are typically underdeveloped and often lead to a weaker up kick. And so for those that struggle with the up kick, it may not just be a skill issue, it may also be a fitness issue, and this is a really good way to address that. Train those muscles, get them fitter, get them stronger, and the whole kick can really clean up. Now, important consideration is that when kicking on the surface, especially when trying to develop the underwater kick, quality still matters. You can go a little bit longer, but it still needs to be good. It's not about going 8/300s, it's about practicing the skills that need to be executed underwater and doing them at a pretty high level. If you want to improve the underwaters, speed and skill still need to be at a premium when done on the surface. It's not about getting sloppy and kind of dragging through it. Quality is still really important, and the quality on the surface kicking has to be good so that you can have good quality kicking when they go back underwater. So if you want to help swimmers develop really good underwater skills, start off with kicking underwater. Focus on short sprints, focus on short drills done at a really high effort level and a really high technical level, and add underwater kicks when they're doing their swim sets. That's going to give them a lot of really high quality practice learning the skill and a lot of high quality practice executing that skill when it matters most, which is when they're swimming. Do it all the time when they're swimming and work the kick all the time in isolation as well. And that's going to go a long way to help swimmers get the practice that they need. And if you think they still need more work and more practice, take it to the surface, but make sure the quality stays high and that they're still swimming really well. For what it's worth, almost every good underwater kicker that I have worked with have been really good on the surface as well. And this is especially true of the swimmers that were taking 6 or more kicks off of the wall in their races, because those swimmers have to be really good with their rhythm if they're going to be able to sustain that type of kicking throughout their races. For the kickers that only take 2 or 3 kicks, even if they're really good at those 2 or 3 kicks, the surface kicking might not be as valuable because they're not really using the rhythm. They're going for total rate there. It's a different skill set, and it's one that may not be built with surface kicking. But if you want longer kickouts, kicking on the surface might be the ticket. Swimmers learn to kick with rhythm, and rhythm builds speed. If you want to learn more about how to develop great underwater kicking rhythm, check out the video here.